Welcome back to the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It is a fun, casual joint, and there is no better way to commiserate what happened on Saturday in the game, and there's nobody I would rather do it with than Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, and Nicole Cox. Ohio State.
Is that a real statement?
Yes, you are.
It doesn't feel so fun today.
It's not going to be the most enjoyable conversation we ever have.
But you know what? Those conversations need to be had, though, sometimes.
It has to
every
be.
now and then.
We're forced into this situation, and we're going to do it. We're going to get into it. Ohio State loses 30-24. They've lost 3 straight in the game. They are 11-1. They have to wait and see if they get a couple dominoes to fall their way this week to get back to the college football playoff.
By the way, Florida State choking at the end, or Florida choking at the end of that, that was the kick in the sack I didn't need. So it's like, oh, you know what? If they lost this, then it's really
first one out of the way.
One of the biggest. That and Texas are the two.
And Alabama and Auburn, what in the world?
Oh, my gosh, 4th and 31.
You almost had 2 of them out of the way already, and then by Saturday night, you're like, okay, it could be real.
But, by the way, you want to talk about feeling bad as an Ohio State fan? I want to paint you a picture if you're an Auburn Tigers fan.
Oh, gosh.
Your team has been bad the last 2 years. But in those 2 years, you had a chance with 2 minutes left where you should have beaten your rival. And whatever the tracker win probability says, it's like well over 90%.
That one broke.
I mean, like literally, it's like it's hammering on the side. Nothing else can happen but an Auburn victory outside of like Bane blowing up the field and falling in like in Batman. And they lost it. And they did the same thing the year before. I mean, year before wasn't quite as bad, but pretty egregious. That 4th and 33 or whatever it was, 28, I don't know.
It was in the 30s.
I mean,
Auburn was born in the darkness. Ohio State's merely adopted it.
That's so unbelievable. I felt like I after that, I had to put on which was equally as depressing. I'm watching the Pacific right now. I watched 4 episodes on Wednesday. At 12:30, I made, or probably maybe not 12:30, 1:30, I think. I made the executive decision to turn that off because I'd watched like 2 or 3 episodes again. I was a pile of sadness.
Yeah.
Because like the things that could have made me feel a little better, then ultimately ended in a dire situation as well. I wish it would have just been a blowout and not drug me all the way down the line.
Nicole, how'd you feel?
We've talked about that before. It's devastating. I mean, my heart goes out to the guys, to Coach Day, who I know wanted to win so badly. It's personal for him now. Well, it has been, I feel like. And I just feel like maybe that is something to do with it, like with all of them. I was listening to Berm say that the guys were quiet, like going into the locker room. And I feel like it's the pressure just taking over, whereas opposed to, I feel like if it were any other game, they'd be like, we've got this,
So they were quiet, Berm? Is that
what I thought before the game that I watched Ohio State's warm-ups. They were loose. I know some people don't like the dancing, but even the coaching staff was dancing. Brian Hartline, James
Laurinaitis. Good.
They were loose. They were confident, and I thought for sure compared to what Michigan looks very tight. There was no conversation, a lot of that going down on their end of the field. So this is going to be Ohio State's day, and then that changed very quickly. And what Berm said, he can talk about that in the second half of the show. He's here. I'm sure it'll be a great vibe check with him.
Oh gosh!
But he's in the tunnel, and he only heard one voice going up to the locker room at halftime, which was Jack Sawyer, and nobody else talking at all. I think that changed. And Nicole, like when you talk about Ryan Day wanting it, I don't. If I think about anything, it's this game. It's the decisions in the first half. But once Emeka dropped that ball, once Ohio State punted on 4th and 1, then you obviously had the back-breaking interception from Kyle McCord that came happen. It was like Ohio State got punched in the mouth, and they did not like it. And they did respond. They tied up the game. I think people forget.
Well, even at that, they get a stop, and you drive the ball. And I know people are going to hate the field goal situation, but you just drove it off your 2-yard line. It's 4th and 2. You've got an opportunity to get points. You would go in, despite having a rocky first half, giving them basically 7, you'd be down a point if you could make a field goal. And I understand it's a longer field goal, but for heaven's sake, man, like I'm not going to give you. You don't get Buckeye leaves for making 25-yarders now. Like you get Buckeye leaves for making big kicks and big moments.
I think my personal frustration with that, Bob, and I don't know if you agree or don't agree, but Ohio State had an opportunity the 4th and 1, I know that you're more okay with that decision early in the game and play field position.
I don't want him to turn, because here's the thing, you say aggressive. I didn't need him to turn into James Franklin where he's hearing every voice in the world like, it's time to go. Like, we're going to be aggressive. Go for 2. Like, no, there's a difference between being aggressive and being foolhardy. Like, I don't need Jon Snow out there with a sword taking on an army.
All right, yeah, but I'm not changing my mind. I thought about it live. I thought they needed to go for it. This is not hindsight. He has spent the entire year talking about the new lease on life and coaching back to like his personality. And that was an opportunity to send that message right from the start. As well as Ohio State's defense played in that first half especially, but throughout the course of the year, that could also be a message, hey, I still trust these guys that the worst they're going to do is maybe go give up a field goal. So that's part of it, trusting the defense, trusting the offense, and then distrusting the special teams because that was a horrific punt, and there's been no reason throughout the year to trust them to do that, which was the same thing with the field goal. Like, trust your playmakers and put it in their hands, and then give a jolt of confidence and tell the offense and defense, I trust that they're going to win this game for me. Part
of, I guess, the trust that I look at the defense is, hey, we've been leaning into the defense a lot of the year. We can punt it here. Like, because here's the thing, everyone looks at this, like, well, look at what Urban would do. He would have done this. And then, like, well, Jim Tressel isn't out there going crazy and doing all these other things. And you know what? He maybe would have gone for that. Maybe would have punted and said, hey.
No chance he would have gone for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, hey, we're going to punt it. We'll play some defense. We'll get the ball back. Now, granted, that's where the special teams come in. It's like, we'll pin them down inside definitely in the 20, maybe inside the 10. And we'll give a defense that's been really good with a long field. Maybe you get a 3 and out. Maybe you get 1 first down. But we can get the ball back around the 35, 40-yard line, and let's get going again.
But I just think that's like faulty information, like to go trust your special teams in that situation. And I'm not even.
Ooh, nice catch.
Thank you. I'm not even comparing it to Jim Tressel or Urban Meyer. I that's not a fair one to make. Like, what would they have done in the situation? It really doesn't matter.
You know what Woody would have done when Xavier, they called him short? He would have grabbed that yard marker and thrown it on the field. Well, I'd watched that move before.
He wouldn't have got a review because that technology didn't exist, so that we can't speculate on that either. But I'm comparing it not. In my mind, I'm thinking about Peach Bowl Ryan Day, Georgia Ryan Day, which I know is not even like that didn't happen on Saturday for one. Let's set that aside. But what about compared to like 2019 Ryan Day? Would he have gone for it on 4th and 1 from the 46? I believe that he would have. Now, there's no way for me to prove that right or wrong, but
I feel like in the last year and a half or so, we've heard him talk about being more aggressive and really just not playing not to lose, but just going out there and firing away. Kind of what you're talking about, which makes it surprising in that spot that he didn't do it because he has talked about it, and we feel like as you were talking, I thought, and what would he have done in that Georgia game last year? I feel like he'd have gone for it. And all of a sudden we revert back to not doing that sort of thing.
They're also running the ball well in that Georgia game. Now, I think after that 17-17 drive, if he would have an opportunity on a 4th down when they ran it 7 or 8 straight times from the 40-yard line, 100%. Like now we're feeling good about the O-line. We're blocking them up front. We're being able to get yardage. At that point, it was still kind of body shots, feeling it out. I mean, heck, there was 5 possession changes in the first 6 minutes of the game.
But you already had a drop. And so it's all right, well, let's try and get something going here on this 4th and 1. If same could be said about your defense. All right, we don't pick this up. We still trust our defense, whether they're from the 2 or from the 45. I know that's better, obviously. But if you trust your defense, which I think we do or did going into that game, I hate the end of the half one more for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I think he could have gone for that there, and I don't think it would have mattered if we wouldn't have got it. I think the defense would have answered the bell.
Yeah. I'm not sure that the 3 points would have made that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things. Now,
it would have been.
It would have had a chance
what
to
if we get the 4th and 2, and all of a sudden we're down at the 10-yard line on the next play, and we get a touchdown going into halftime?
Yeah. I don't know. Nicole would have gone for it.
No,
not a chance. Not a chance Nicole goes for that.
No. Unfortunately, I can see why he didn't. I mean, just getting, just trying to play it safe and just trying to, I don't know. I
think that's what made it so puzzling to me. I just don't think that you can win the game and a competitive matchup like that without showing some aggression and confidence in your team to get it done. And
maybe that's what, maybe, I mean, I have no idea, but maybe it's this particular game has such a sensitive spot with everyone that maybe they think, let's play it safe. Let's try and play it safe so we don't have any more interceptions or dropping the ball or anything like that.
I think that's what creates mistakes.
Yeah,
and
it's.
I agree with that's. I think they stopped their thinking there and they made that decision. But you're right. Like in the big picture, it's supposed to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Well,
in a competition,
it's smart, and I give a lot of credit to Sharon Moore, and he had two hits, two big hits that he had manufactured. They threw the halfback pass, which got 30 some odd yards. And then they came out of the second half with Alex Orji, their backup quarterback, which what are they doing? Zone read, 22 yards. So those are two big chunk plays because they knew they couldn't just run the ball down the field consistently, and they sure as heck couldn't pass it. People talk about J.J. McCarthy. He was 16 of 20 for 146 yards. He had, touchdown pass, which should have been intercepted. He threw an in-breaking route into one robber, went right over Malik Hartford's shoulder, and if that's Lathan Ransom, that's an interception.
I'm not even sure if "should be" is the right term, Bob, because it was intercepted.
Well, and we could even argue the semantics of that.
But it shouldn't got that far.
Yeah,
I think
it should have been intercepted 10 yards prior to that.
It should have been intercepted and then was intercepted, but somehow it was a touchdown. And that happened throughout the game.
But they had two plays, like situations.
Yep.
Like you remember, you were there in 06. Like, Tress was a very conservative guy. That's what we talked, going for it. He comes up, you run to the huddle, which they did in that. That's what's crazy. Like the third down, like be aggressive, boom, get up there, and bang the slant.
Boom, there it is.
Okay, could it have been maybe a foot up and a foot inside?
He's good enough to catch that ball.
We're talking about Emeka Egbuka, and this is not a criticism of him. This is the fact that I think he is a great player. Dude, it's on your hip. Yeah. Like wasn't some crazy
catch and fall down. You don't have to do anything else. It's first down. First
down, 8-9 yards, boom, we're going. Like I love the tempo right there. Michigan wasn't set. Their dudes turning around, looking, fired in. Like it's right there. And Tress goes up. Remember, he run to the line of scrimmage. The 4th and 1. Ted's on the wing, hides. You take the shot over the top.
Beanie comes down hard. I mean, that was a touchdown all week long. We hadn't run that throughout that season.
He'd been holding it back. Tress said he never held anything back. I'm like, I never saw that one before. There was always something like that. As soon as that
was called, you knew it was a touchdown because it was perfect.
And it felt like there was going to be something that Ryan would have a little bit here and there, a double move. Maybe some sort of screen or
throwback.
Don't have enough
time for a double move.
Well, so that's the other piece of it. As I thought about, we haven't run like a true tailback screen all year. Like Trey is good out in space,
he's been
and maybe our offensive line isn't great at that. But I don't know. You got to me, it's like that slows down the rush. That does some other things that helps, and just maybe a little thing or two. I think I said it was when it was the Thursday night, Monday, whatever it was. I was like, defense, it's tackling, it's toughness, and it's eye control. Toughness was pretty good. Got oozed a little bit. Tackling, good for the most part. Missed some. But really, like the tackling, you missed a critical one there. And Sonny, which ironically, that would have been Lathan Ransom too. Sonny would have been in the adjuster spot. And it's a guy who's really a 3.5-year starter who's there. And like just, and you got to have the eye control because they're going to have something.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth down. Yeah, they run. Boom. What are we doing? Tight end right to the flat. Mm-hmm. And they know we're a man. It's like whatever, and it's tough. Sonny gets him down. Like, I'm not going to be critical of that, but like, hey, you got to be locked in. You got to have just a little bit. I'm not saying go crazy and just throwing bombs.
Yeah. But there's some things there that maybe Ohio State hadn't seen this year that all of a sudden, whoa, what's that guy doing out there taking snaps in the beginning of the third quarter? What are we doing against this? And they pop a 22-yard runoff.
The irony is that was what we were doing with Devin Brown earlier. Yeah. Devin Brown, I think, was healthy and ready to go. And not that in the red zone we ever got really bogged down, but
well, they used two plays down there that are a little bit of new wrinkles. You had Emeka coming,
back
back through.
Oh, that was a great call, and that's what I'm saying. Like he had some good stuff. I'm not saying Ryan.
We're like coming on the crosser on the second touchdown. 100% dialed.
Oh, they run the swing, drain him out right in there. I mean, he had some good stuff. His red zone stuff was really good. Yeah. It's just a question of is there anything to manufacture like a 25, 30 yards? And they got the one to Marv, the other one to Mac down the seam that Kyle maybe hangs it a little. I almost expect Emeka to catch that, and that's out of respect for him being a great player.
Yeah.
Again, guys, I think it's the pressure of that game. I think it is just.
Then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hold a gun to people's heads during practice. I go, how do you synthesize that pressure? You know how you synthesize
you drop
it?
This,
as
you
if
die.
It's literally a life and death situation. Answer the question, get it right, boom. We'll start in the leg. We'll work our way up. I mean, I don't know. That's the only one I know how to do.
No, I'm. That's one thing I'm.
That's what
just
Tress
so
was doing back in the day. It
curious
worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He told us that there's guys from Youngstown on
Yeah,
top
you had
of
the mafia
top
out
of-
there, snipers. You drop the
Fawcett
ball, and you
Center.
get shot in the leg.
I do kind of like. I mean, it's that
Well,
part of it.
Nicole's on board with
I
the
mean,
shooting him in practice.
I'm on.
Shankability?
It's weird. I just think that I would love to know how the coaches teach that, like how they teach to. You're nervous. You know that we have to win. That I mean, at this point, it was we have to win, and guess what? We didn't. But at the end of the day, I want everyone to remember Michigan was as good as we are.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the thing.
They're incredible.
Undefeated.
They are. I mean,
going into our game, it looked like maybe something was wrong with them. They didn't play well against Penn State. I didn't think they played well against Maryland.
I mean, I don't think they
So
played
it's like,
good.
who are they?
They had a couple hits, like of things that they had
I know, but the
pulled
first
out.
play of the game, they come and throw a 10-yard out to the sideline.
Yeah.
It's like you didn't throw a ball
No.
for 40-some times against Penn State or whatever, 30-some times.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your first play of the game against us is on the sideline to a receiver. So I think they maybe were holding some stuff back, making us kind of lawing us into something.
hey, which we should take note of that.
but-
that was
I mean, JJ didn't play great.
fake
He
us out.
I don't think he was a huge difference maker, but he made some throws on the.
He made clutch plays.
Some of those on the sideline, just clutch balls. The one back across the middle, that's just when you know it's your day. Because that was no coach in America that tells a quarterback,
No.
"Oh yeah, you can go hang
like
out over
not
on the
to do
sideline," and then just you do not ever do that. That's when you know it's like not your day. The guy makes a crazy catch there, and they have a 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1.
To your point, Nicole, like it's not you have to win. It's a belief that you're going to win. Like there's a difference. Like
We probably felt more we have to win, not hey, we're gonna go up there and take.
we're
care of
gonna win.
business. Yeah.
Like we're gonna win because of this, and we're prepared. And it's like a confidence of knowing that you can get it done. And there was that confidence for a long time, just because we were better and we had better players, and everybody felt that, and they had been winning that game. And now, how do you get that back? Like that's the question to kind of regain that and to find that edge.
Well, and I think that's the rivalry, and I
Yes.
think that's what people need to remember. And it's terrible being on this side of it. Like
think of 8
because
years in a
we've
row.
been winning. We've been winning for so long that it's like we just expected it. And I'm glad it wasn't a blowout because it shows that we are on the same level. I mean, we had it tied up. We just had some things happen. Just some unfortunate.
You could
plays.
probably look back at all 7 losses of Ryan's.
Oh yeah.
And say, Marvin doesn't get knocked out of this game. What happens? Scoop and score or something
Terrible
weird
call
happens
against
here.
Clemson, yeah.
Bad calls against Clemson. What? Like, that's what happens in those games. When you are matched up well against the other teams, a couple plays here and there are going to be what changes the game. And Michigan made those plays on Saturday. We didn't.
Critical play execution and trying to, Nicole, it's the hardest thing in the world for a coach to figure out how to get your guys to that point, because it's kind of different for everybody, and it's the culture of the program, the off-season stuff, like going through it, is guys having success, guys being experienced, being in those situations before.
It's like parenting.
It really is. Like trying too hard isn't the answer. Like
Right.
you squeeze. Like it's Lenny with the rabbits, George. Tell me about the rabbits. You get the little mice in your pocket and you just squeeze that thing to death because you love it so much and you don't want to let it get away.
But I think I'm also trying to balance the way that I evaluate the game and what it means for the future of the program through the lens that Nicole was talking about. It still was a 1-possession game and maybe even 1 play away. If you get a half second more on the block from Donovan Jackson to let Kyle McCord throw, he's got a Marvin Harrison Jr. open.
It's eerily similar to the Clemson game. With everything else that happened, you still have a chance on the final play.
And that's what you want, right? I mean, it's great. If you can blow out an opponent, you do. Like, that's great. It doesn't happen a lot in the game.
It's a top 5 opponent.
It's a top 5 opponent, and it's on the road. So there's lots of, like, you see so many, takes coming out of the game. Well, Ryan Day's lost 3 in a row. He's never going to do it again. Kyle McCord, made that horrible interception. There's no way he can ever be the starting quarterback for Ohio State again. Those things are overreactions to what happened on Saturday. Now, we can have fair conversations about Ryan Day's in-game decision-making, about how far Kyle McCord has come since September to now, how much the ankle was affecting it, how much the offensive line is affecting him, how much drops at critical situations hurt him. Like, you have to put more of it into context that's not just, well, they lost, and that's the result. You can't change it. But sometimes you lose to good teams on the road.
Exactly.
That's why you play the game.
Thank you, Austin. I agree.
What's crazy
That's
is,
what makes it football,
and And this is why it's so hard to be like ultra critical. That's why I say I hold Emeka in the highest regard. Like those guys were out there Thursday after practice for an hour on the Monarch.
Yep.
Like, dude, it's Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
and that's, it wasn't for lack of effort.
That's what I'm saying. It's not for like lack of effort, dedication, commitment. It's like trying to find the edge everywhere, and it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really hard because you never. And I think a little bit of is understanding the situation, like the gravity of it, because there's always 4 or 5 plays in a game. And we're sitting there pointing, boom, 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 and like they turn here or there, and like understanding a little bit of experience of when you feel like those plays are coming. It doesn't necessarily have to be a third down. It could be a 2nd and 8, because if you can hold them here, it's 3rd and 7. You get off the field and you're done. It's not the third down; it's the play that's leading into it. Or hey, if we can get a good play on first down here, that's going to set this drive up and get the drive
behind
going.
the sticks. And,
yeah. Like that in Mecca, it's the first third down of the game. It's not a big deal. We stop them afterwards anyway. But you go back and look, you're like, you get that. That's 10, 12. You're driving.
Like 45, 50-yard line right then.
Even if you get a field goal, to strike first, you feel
or
a little
bad
better.
punt, get you inside the 10 instead of at the 30 or whatever it was.
But we got to focus on the next play and just.
And they did a pretty good job. Like I didn't feel like the guys shelled up.
Yeah.
Because despite everything, you're on the 38, 40-yard line with 35, 40 seconds and great receivers and a chance to go win the game.
Yeah, I don't think it was too big for him. I think it was just a bad day to play bad. Or not bad per se, but just they didn't play their best.
Yeah.
And it was not one player. It was collectively.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes everybody, and we didn't play our best. And if we would have played our best, I think that's a different ball game.
Didn't get a ton of pressure on J.J. McCarthy.
But we didn't, and they were a good team, and they took advantage of certain situations and made plays when they had to. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. I would rather this type of game than the old blowouts. I mean, I love.
It hurt worse. I was able to start burying it.
It makes you feel alive, Bob.
I feel
the hurt makes you feel alive.
It really does.
I haven't really cared about this game until this one, and it's like, oh, this stings. This hurts.
Like last year, and especially 2 years ago, I could get the shovel out and start digging in the end of the third, fourth quarter. And so you already had some of the funeral could begin right after the game.
Off some of that anger.
At this, I don't know whether to grab the shovel or a bottle of champagne. Or maybe a 44.
Both of them.
The 44
What's going to happen here?
And that's great. Because it shows the guy.
It makes you feel so alive.
Hey, listen, he's done it this week. When we got that ball, I'm not surprised if this guy takes us down the field.
Exactly.
And if he gets some better protection, maybe that happens, maybe not. But he had been there before, and he had done it for us before.
That's
so all you people can trash on him all you want. I think it's ridiculous.
That's about where they were when he banged that seam into Emeka against Notre Dame. Yeah. It's that's what I'm saying. To think that it was
if he was on his feet, able to throw that ball and not getting
Marvin's coming out.
It could have been beautiful, but it didn't happen. I mean, that defensive line was strong. We knew it. The inside of that was their strength, and they blew by our 2 guys who were laying on the ground watching them go hit our quarterback.
One other way that you can recover from Saturday is by coming
eating
in
all these fried pickles.
I had this during the game, so it actually made it a little bit better.
These fried pickles. They're fried.
They're so good.
$3. Delicious,
Appetizer
crispy. Get some ranch, maybe some spicy ranch if you really want to go crazy. By the way, so those are available at $3 all day long. Tomorrow. Tuesday at Roosters. I'm going to probably eat this whole thing. Cullen loves the spicy ranch. He calls it the special sauce.
Ooh, I like that.
He puts it on everything now.
I like that a lot.
He's putting it on his. I'm like, dude, that's spicy. I'm like, it's in the Roosters jug at our house.
I love it.
We're almost. I was the only one that used it. Now he's used almost all of it, so I'll have to get another one.
I
love it.
I haven't had any in 2 months.
He was putting it on.
He was putting it on.
You look great.
You do look great.
He was putting it on the leftover turkey. He's like, this is good on anything.
Hey, I've got a ton of chicken at home. I'm not going to eat that today. It sounds so good.
It's also gift card season.
Oh, yes.
It is.
That's
For
right.
every $50 in gift cards you purchase at Roosters, you get a $10 bonus buck.
And you don't have to give that $10 away.
Right.
You can spend that
keep
yourself.
it for you.
$10 make it holla.
You could buy 3 baskets of fried pickles for that tomorrow.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds
that,
like
that math works
You can't
out.
start using them until January, unfortunately.
You're going to have to wait till January.
But that's okay.
But a Tuesday in January.
Yeah,
Let's go.
okay.
Just drink your way through December and it'll go quick.
There was a rule that I wasn't aware of with Roosters gift cards, but now I know. Nicole's cleared it up for me.
Which would you rather be? Would you rather be a Texans fan on Sunday watching a ball hit the crossbar from 55 out?
Talk about champagne or
I mean, I was there watching. I was like, "Oh, poor CJ! Like, he couldn't even get away."
I couldn't be in the same room. Bronson was going crazy, so I was putting.
They're gonna make it.
I guess the best part is that knowing that the Texans actually get to play again next week, and
that's the problem.
Yeah.
The issue with this is the
It's like it's
finality.
done. Yeah, it's just
losing against
boom.
Michigan State, it's like, hey, you got Michigan the next week,
Yeah.
and they had lost to Virginia Tech in 14. Like, hey, got the whole season. There's a lot of things that can happen. It's literally the finality that crushes you.
and now it's purgatory because these guys got to wait to make their decisions. They're hoping that they get some more dominoes on Saturday, or the teams don't choke like Florida and Auburn did on Saturday night. Anyway,
Guys, they played hard. I just
They
hope
did.
everybody
They
remembers that, and how, like, I just think Coach Day is wonderful, and I think he's young and he learns every year. I do think our team gets better and better every year. That's why we're always ranked number 1 or number 2, you know?
we'll see where they're ranked on Tuesday night and how
Yeah,
much
we
help they
definitely
need until how much help they might need to get back into the college football playoff. It's not over yet, but the first segment at Roosters in the Horseshoe Lounge is. We're going to be right back after this in a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. And Berm is here. He's got a lot of thoughts.
I don't really.
Oh, he's done. Got nothing to say.
What a surprise.
He is. He's picked out the exit that he's going to drive his car off the bridge on the way back to Michigan,
I know that this
somewhere between
sounds
Finley and
like
Toledo.
I know this sounds
Somewhere
defeatist or what. Two good teams played a good game and one team lost. Like one team made the mistakes that lost them the game, and I don't want to make it so simple as that. But ultimately, that's what football comes down to. It's you have to execute the game as you call it, and Ohio State didn't, and Michigan did. Now, some of that is Michigan maybe is just their day because, as you said, when J.J. McCarthy rolls to his right on 3rd and 6, on 2nd and 6, it was 3 minutes to go in the game and throws back across his body in a spot that no quarterback in the world should ever do, and it gets caught for 5 yards. Kudos. I mean, you got beat.
Yep.
I don't think it means that Ohio State is a broken program. I don't think it means that the Buckeyes are incapable of winning big games. I think all that is just garbage. I think when
It's hard to go
when your ceiling and your floor are the same,
The ceiling is the roof, Mike.
that becomes and I know we joke about it. The
It
standard
becomes
is the standard.
it becomes a flat circle.
Like how there are a lot of Buckeyes fans out there who after week 1 of this, this is a 4-loss team. And now
big time.
So they lose one game and everyone acts like it's the end of the world. But I think there are people who wanted them to lose 4 games that were fans of this team. That
Would make it feel better,
Yeah.
so they could argue like, well, we're not very good.
I
And
think the reality is every time you play Michigan, it matters. And you lost the game, but it doesn't mean that everything is over.
in the last 2 years, both teams have been undefeated. 2 years ago, what they had maybe one
Michigan
loss.
had 1 loss and Ohio State had 1 loss.
Yeah. And so, but people are comparing this like to John. I was talking to my dad. I try to always bring him in on it because he's not outside of me playing there. He was not a big Ohio State fan growing up. He played at Miami, Ohio, but he knows, so maybe even more of a Michigan guy at some point. But like, he has a good mind for watching this, and that's what he said. Bernie goes, "Those are 2 really good football teams that played." And he goes, "It came down to it was a great game." He goes, "If I didn't care about Ohio State and you," he's like, "I would have been thoroughly satisfied with watching
Sitting
that
down
game
for 3 hours and watching
that game." He goes, "There was back and forth, there was this and that." He goes, "Ohio State had a chance to win at the very end," and he goes, "This is a really good Michigan team." He goes, when people talk about the mid '90s with Cooper, he goes, I can't remember what their record was in '93."
Ohio State?
They were 10-1, but what was Michigan's?
I don't remember.
But Michigan with 95 and 96, 2 of the other undefeated teams that they lost to.
Yeah.
They're 8-4 and 9-4 in those years.
Ohio State was a significantly better team.
Yes, like
losing those
this
games.
Michigan team is going to CFP now. Hopefully they
For the third straight year.
they handle themselves
For
better
the third
than-
straight year.
Yeah.
Now 2 of them maybe they shouldn't have been there because of cheating, but we've talked about it all year. This is a really good Michigan team. They were the preseason number 1 team for a lot of people. They have dominated throughout the year. They played 2 bad games in the last 2 weeks on the road without their head coach and looked a little bit.
And I think they were
confused.
holding. I think they were holding a little bit. I mean,
Yeah. Kudos. They should have. They knew they didn't have to go out and lay it all on the line the last 2 weeks. And then they get home. You have the home field advantage. It wasn't great on Saturday. I definitely. I told him after. I know you guys talking about it. It was not like loud in that stadium on Saturday. I think that there were at times, especially after Ohio State tied it at 17-17, I think the Michigan fans, I think the crowd expected to lose. And Ohio State just couldn't take the game back because Michigan went down and scored an 8-play drive on the next one that culminates in, Zach Zinter's injury, and then Blake Corum scores on the next play. And I think that play just sucked the wind back out of the Ohio State defense.
The drive where they went down and scored their 17 all, where they hammered it in for 8. Like, people are talking about
Ohio State's best drive of the year.
Toughness. I'm like, dude, for the last 8 plays, it was run,
8 plays,
chip, tray, boom, boom, 10, 4, 6, touchdown. And I'm like, okay, well, that apparently
more
is
of that, please.
the offensive line can't ball. What are we talking about? And these aren't like perimeter runs, trick plays, reverses. This is downhill, hardcore stuff.
And Ohio State got the, Michigan goes down to make the lead again. Ohio State, the crowd is crazy. Ohio State goes 3 and out. It's 20.
That's the 3 and out there was tough.
Like, that's what happened. That's the beauty of playing at home. That's home field advantage. And so I don't think that this game is. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about it being a referendum on Ryan. Like, I just don't feel it that way. I really don't.
Maybe they would have got beat by 21
maybe it's because
points.
I think the last 2 years shouldn't. I don't think the last 2 years, knowing what we now know, should have the impact on people that it has had. So maybe that's because I'm trying to compartmentalize this and say those losses to me don't even exist anymore. You know, this one you're playing the top 5 team on the road, 2 really damn good teams, and one team made mistakes and lost. That's what football is. When you're playing great teams, you can't make that mistake. Kyle McCord's interception on the 3rd drive of the game is a mistake you can't make. Now, whether or not Marvin Harrison should have competed harder for the ball, we can have that argument. But regardless, when you predetermine where you're going to throw the ball before the snap happens, and you happen to have the best player in the country, Michigan's knowing that ball is going to go there. Will Johnson's a really good player.
He is.
The way that Ryan Day talked about it and Kyle McCord both afterwards was like, this criticism that has been leveled at Kyle McCord, Jay-Z, is that he can only make one read. He never goes through his progressions.
Well, that's what Joel Klatt said during the game, so that's why it became true.
Well, I mean, every quarterback Ohio State has had.
Yeah, that's
So
what
It's a one-read system. So that's all we do here, you know?
But the guy's always open, so throw it to that guy first.
The weirdest thing was, like, Ryan Day talked about that interception in their conversation, and like, Kyle McCord's like, well, it wasn't there, so I should have just, thrown it away. Like, they acted like that was the only read on that play.
It was. Because there was a run-pass option.
It was a run-pass option.
Let Trey run
to where, I mean, to me, it looked like as if, maybe you just hand the ball off and see what happens, but
or once
his read, if that backer goes,
once you turn your body,
all American receivers fighting to get inside of whoever's in front of him.
Once you turn your body and you see that corner has inside leverage, just scramble up the middle for 2 yards,
or hand it off. Just say, man, I thought he was way too far inside for him to get there. I handed the ball off.
He didn't. I mean,
he had to
rewatch that play. He ran the fake, turned and threw, and that was it. And Will Johnson knew what he was doing. So at that point, when you turn and you see that guy, chuck it over the, Kyle McCord's had no problem throwing the ball out of bounds on purpose this year, right? So do it in that case. Don't try to.
He hasn't had problems sticking it on their chest either this year and having them one-handed catch while they're contesting somewhere else. I mean, we've seen Marvin do that many a times.
Those are the plays. Those are the plays that make a difference.
It wasn't great.
Those are the plays that make a difference.
That's the thing. The way you look, I would love to watch film with him and just really hear what Ryan is like. Yeah. We need him to beat him, or we need this, or you need to throw that away. I would love to see how they coach that up, because when I watched it, I was like, on the replay, I'm like, was this a screen that he just went rogue and threw us? Because it didn't look like Marv knew what he was doing. Or at least he wasn't trying to get to a spot, it didn't feel like. So I'm like, did he just go rogue? And because we had a quarterback do that a few weeks ago.
Because RPO, and maybe he saw him sitting inside. It's like,
and so
he didn't
Marv
anticipate.
Thought, hey, he's not going to throw me the ball.
Yeah.
Fair.
And maybe you hand it off. I mean, you're going with the top receiver in the
country. But again, it just didn't look like there was a route being run at all, which you can't have in a game like that, in my opinion.
Yes. And
if you're fighting, that's at least an incomplete pass and we punt the ball.
It is. And that's tough because you're backed up.
But you're not fighting, and then it's an incomplete interception, and that is what it is. Not a great ball, but he hasn't thrown – I mean, he's thrown really great balls, but he's also thrown some ugly ones.
And he did even within that game. Bounced right back.
Really good.
That's how he goes. But you got to trust that your receivers. If you get in a sticky situation, it doesn't always happen out. But
you get that, the ball to Cade that he underthrew inside on the seam, not great.
It's a touchdown.
But then you look, him climbing the pocket, throwing the one to Marv.
Maybe he hit Stover again on the same kind of play.
Stover.
Deep shot he had to Emeka Ibuka that defender made a nice play on. The Julian Fleming ball down the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle McCord did not play
He was
well
not the reason we lost that game.
But he didn't play.
He was not the reason.
He didn't play poorly enough to be the guy that people blame this loss on.
I agree.
But I don't think J.J. McCarthy made the winning plays. Kyle Kyle McCord did not make the winning plays that he had to when it mattered. And that's the difference, I guess, between a first-year starting quarterback and a second-year starting quarterback. That's the difference between being at home and being on the road. There's so many little things that go into a loss like that. But the bottom line is you had the chance with 40 seconds to go to win the game. And you run a kickback and waste time and get less field position to the,
special teams are special.
When you're very comfortable doing this all game long, and then that moment you decide to run the ball back and you waste time and yardage. It's just little things like that you look at and go, man, this team sometimes just, I think it's a mental block now, and now it becomes a problem. And Jim Knowles going into this game is super, super conservative all year long, and you knew that was the case. But, man, how much of last year's game was in Jim Knowles' head?
Like, don't blitz. Yeah, I mean,
you don't give up a big one.
Especially if you're not getting pressure and your guys are tackling pretty well. I mean, I don't know. Like, you have to, anytime you blitz, bring pressure.
It's a risk.
It's a risk of, hey, if we don't get there, our guys are hanging out. There's a risk of a big play. I look at how good these corners are and how good they were playing in the game. It wasn't like McCarthy was really making any throws of depth on
he had
rhythm.
60 yards of yardage to his wide receivers.
Yeah.
And 22 of them were on a play that is controversial with the touchdown to Roman Wilson.
And that's what I'm saying. That was even, did he roll a little bit in that?
Yes.
Yeah, so like all the stuff he was actually buying time was off schedule throws. So you're thinking if you bring pressure, you heat it up a little bit. That doesn't give him the ability to extend those plays.
Yeah, they blitzed him 4 times.
And that's, I will say that there was some holding that was going on. I think Ohio State, they didn't call any of it.
Yeah, they didn't call any of it.
So I wasn't upset because people were on Jack and JT. I'm like, hey, they're getting held pretty good here. But then I watched some of the other stuff. Like, we might be getting away with a couple of them too. And so I try to be unbiased with that. If you're not going to call it,
if you're not calling it, great.
They didn't throw many flags.
Only 3 all game. Ohio State only had 1. That was on the punt. That illegal formation on a punt. Michigan only had 2. There's plays where you look at it, like the 3rd and 2 play where on Michigan's final drive of the game, where clearly Cornelius Johnson pushed off and they don't call offensive PI. That's a pretty damn big play. That cost 4 minutes from that point forward. So, but officiating, you can't blame. You lost by 6 points, and you gave them 7, and the officials gave them 7.
But even outside of that, you have the perfect. Like, I'll give Jim Knowles credit. You had the perfect defense called in that.
Oh yeah.
Malik Hartford is a young player who hadn't played a lot. He is supposed to either cut or have his eyes back. He turns as the ball is being thrown. That's what, like, Lathan,
for no reason.
Well, because he was turning, I think, to go back and cut and go back and get it. But if you just would have stayed there, that's the worst throw J.J. McCarthy could have made. He intercepts that. The play that Sonny misses the tackle on the backside, like, that would have been Lathan Ransom. Had Lathan been healthy, Sonny would have been over on the other side being the adjuster. And not to make more of it, but he's a guy who has played a lot of football. He is a sure tackler, and he is a very conscientious player and, like, understands in the game, the moment. He was out there his freshman year playing with the Clemson game. Yep. They trust him. I trust him.
He made a pick in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern.
And it's not the fact that, like, those other guys aren't going to be good. They just don't have the wealth of experience yet.
That's why it makes it so, I think, challenging to figure out what it means in the grand scheme of things, because this is the most important game, right? So you have to try and put some of it in perspective and context. I mean, Berm's point is also fair. It's a good team, and you lost. But when you look at some of the in-game decisions from Ryan Day, I understand the criticism that he's getting for that. I leveled some of that on my own. I think it's also a
I don't think he made any mistakes that cost his team the game.
Yeah.
There's things that we can second guess, but there wasn't anything like that was a bad situation. Like, if he would have not run the clock down and kick that field goal, and then they miss it, and then they go down and get another 3 points, you're like, well, if you're going to kick the field goal, why wouldn't you run the clock down? Like, he made decisions you can disagree with, but structurally within the game,
like, he didn't have Fielding did make the first kick.
The
warm up, and he just missed the second. So you saw that he had the ability to do it. I mean, they could have changed their mind when Michigan called the timeout and said, "Okay, he missed the first one. Let's run it."
Yeah,
he made it. So then you're like,
it was too late by then. I mean,
Michigan had called a timeout.
Yeah, you could send your offense.
You could send the offense back out there if you wanted. There's things you could have done. We can probably disagree on the 4th and 1 in the 46-yard line on the second drive of the game. I don't think you need to go for it there. I think that you punted. The defense got to stop. Like, that's fine.
The punt execution.
The punt was bad,
and that's probably the bigger piece.
And that's that's what I'm talking about. It's also a culmination of off-season decisions. And I didn't just start saying this today or on Saturday. Parker Fleming was out of a contract after having these same issues in the game a year ago and in the Peach Bowl. And not only did you sign him to a new deal, but you gave him a raise to $500,000. And these problems continued all year. So that also factors into my analysis of those decisions, because he's choosing to trust Ryan Day's continuing to trust his special teams coordinator, who's proven pretty dramatically that he's not capable of delivering the results that Ohio State needs to the standard of the program. And you look at that, and you can go have conversations at every position group. I understand that. Every assistant coach, everybody is ultimately responsible when you lose that game. But how many of the things have to change? I don't really know, because evaluating it just off of one game that you lose by one possession on the road probably is not a fair sweeping assessment either.
I don't ever want to call for anybody's job. You know?
It's not a part of this job that I think anyone wants.
No, 100%.
But the reality is you have decisions that have to be made, and
a lot more goes into just firing a guy because he maybe was bad. I mean, they have to make some moves and figure some things out.
Especially because it's a guy that Ryan Day has worked with for 6 years, 7 years. He knows Parker Fleming. He trusts Parker Fleming. It's one of the things I don't think he has a lot of on the staff are guys that he trusts. And I think he does trust Parker Fleming. But obviously, trust is only one part of this equation. The job is not getting done. So now that the job is not getting done, that has to trump trust in that situation. You can't afford to lose James Laurinaitis this offseason to go be a linebacker coach in the NFL. He has to be your linebacker coach. Parker Fleming's job is not being done very well. This is a one-for-one trade that has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, there is not any discussion. Any discussion other than that is wrong in this context. And it sucks, but you're only allowed 10 position coaches. And you can't let James Laurinaitis walk out that door.
The one thing about James, and then Hartline as well, to the same extent, now you've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And you need to have somebody there. Like, part of it goes, we were talking with Nicole, like, you feel like you have to win. It's not a feeling of having to win. It's a feeling, a belief that you're going to win.
We're going to go beat.
And you have to have people that establish that belief and understand how to infuse that to go out there and not, I don't know if it was a tight thing, but like, I feel like probably Hart and James were more loose. They're probably loose because they know how to get it done.
I watched James Laurinaitis
They
on
were
Saturday.
very loose before the game.
Laurinaitis was the only coach I saw on Saturday during the game who was like grabbing players in their faces.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy who understood this. And that's why on this morning's Podcast Daily, like, I think that Corey Dennis has done a really good job managing the quarterback room and doing what Ryan Day wants him to do. But when you talk about changes that have to be made, like, JT Barrett's an assistant quarterbacks coach for the Detroit Lions who are playing pretty darn good football under Dan Campbell, learning how to be a coach. If I have to choose right now between Corey Dennis and his skill set versus what I think JT Barrett could do for that room, knowing that Ryan Day is still the mechanical coach for the quarterbacks, and that's not a discussion for me. I'm calling JT Barrett and saying, hey, we have an opportunity here. We need guys who understand the mental side of being a quarterback in the Big Ten, who understand what it means to play Michigan, who understands what it means to beat Michigan.
A guy who's been in that position.
Done it.
So these are the conversations that I think are going to be difficult this offseason for Ryan Day. Maybe it's not JT Barrett. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's Kenny Guyton. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe Chip.
Maybe it's Ken.
Zwick. Maybe it's Ken Dorsey. Maybe it's Ken Dorsey. If you can't beat him, join him. He gets on the team.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for something.
He's open.
I think that there are opportunities. There are coaches out there that Ryan Day trusts, and this is one of the byproducts of being a young coach who didn't have a extended black book of guys that he knew before he came into the NFL. Right?
Like Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. Well, that's a different
kind.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So his coaching circle has been
going.
His coaching circle has been pretty small, right? And so whenever he's had an opening, we could always sort of guess, okay, he's going to draw from one of these guys. Chip Kelly's not working right now. If Chip Kelly's not working as a analyst for Ohio State and being
Did he get fired already?
Yes. Or he will be. I mean, he's going to be fired.
Well, I
right?
thought they were going to hire Smith, and then Michigan State snagged him. So,
well, I mean, the expectation is that he won't be at UCLA anymore. If you're talking, for me, Ryan Day needing people that he trusts, like someone.
Chip would be great because you talk about
offensive line.
People can hate on him as much as they want. Dude was really good at Oregon. He did some really good things with Philly, maybe a little bit counterculture. I think he's done some good things at UCLA.
Yeah.
just maybe doesn't fit exactly what they're looking for. But he's someone who has done it, who has been there. And you talk about Kevin Wilson, like being the boot guy, someone who is a veteran coach who you trust, like essentially a mentor to you of how to do this thing, who knows ball at a high level.
I'm saying there's opportunity. There are things that can open up here in the next month for Ohio State that will be very good long term for Ryan Day's growth as a head coach, but also for fixing, I think, some of what people believe is a lack of
cure what ails you.
Yeah, lack of toughness, which I don't buy. I think that's a stupid.
It's just an easy out for people.
People say, listen, the team that's won the rushing battle has won this game the last 22 years now. Right? Okay. Ohio State rushed the ball for 107 yards. Michigan rushed it for 156. All right.
4.2, 4.1 yards.
That's 49 yards of difference. Michigan, on the final drive of the game, rushed it for 42. If you get off in 3 and out, or maybe even give them one first down and stop the ball, you get the ball back, you have 4.5, 5 minutes, you can run the ball, you can do your own offense. And those numbers are flipped.
No,
they're inverted. Yes, that's it was one thing. That's what it came down to, the final deal. And that's why I don't even put it all on Kyle on the offense. You got to find a way to get off the field on defense.
That's what I'm saying.
One time,
that's what right there. You've got to get the stop, and that's what those 40 yards, 42 yards. They seem inconsequential, but that was a big part of it because you're getting it back with 6 minutes as opposed to 1.
Do you guys
maybe down 3 as opposed to down 6?
Yeah. When you put
that's what I'm saying.
Breaking those numbers down.
People are like, "Oh, you got outrushed by 50 yards."
They make it seem like it's that much worse.
Dude, there's 20 yards by Blake Corum.
They're milking the clock and they're running the ball.
I mean, it wasn't like they had an explosive day.
14 on the second to last run by Corum.
The other 22 by Orgy.
That put them into
getting everybody together.
Yeah,
the whole group
bringing it all together.
22 yards. That's what I'm saying. I give Sharon more credit. He pulled that out. We need to get a hitter here where we can go pick up an explosive gain. That and the halfback pass. He had 2 little tricks in his bag.
Yep.
And had really good 4th down play calls.
Went for 3 of them. Got them all.
Mm-hmm.
3 for 3. And it wasn't just lining up and big boying you. Hey, one time.
It wasn't like Penn State where it's we're just going to run the ball over you. It was we're coming up with stuff.
Yeah, we're going to zip one out here to the flat because we know that you guys are tough.
Yeah, we know your guy's right here, and he's got to get out there to cover it.
They got penetration. They had some negative yardage and no yardage in 1 and 2 yard gains. It wasn't like 2 years ago up there in 19 or 21 where it's
Hassan Haskins
boom.
For 10
not getting touched till 7 yards down the field. That was not the case.
Do you guys think the Buckeyes will get into the playoff or head to the Orange Bowl? What's going to happen this week?
I don't know. Spin the revolver. Let's see what happens. Click it in. They say we have a 50 chance, so go 3 shells, 3 not. 52%.
I'm not real sure I understand the math on that one. But
I don't either because they add up to 1,000%.
Hey, 60% of the time it works every time.
That's basically Sex Panther cologne. That's what they're popping open. Here's what you need Georgia to win. You need Washington to probably win.
I don't know that it matters.
I don't think that matters a ton, but Georgia, you need to win.
You need Florida State to lose, and you need Texas to lose.
Those are really the two biggies.
I think
then you have a shot.
Washington beating Oregon would be pretty big, wouldn't it?
That's what I'm saying. Well,
I think the Pac-12 is going to get one in no matter what.
They're getting one in. I think
the winner of that
I'm just saying, if Oregon were to have 2, then only
it's unlikely that they're going to put 2 Pac-12s.
They would rather put in Ohio State. I think that's been known with where Oregon and Washington. They just moved Washington above Florida State, and Florida State, I think. I mean, they're on a ventilator right now. I mean, you've got the living will right beside them, ready to pull the plug out.
Almost got pulled first.
That's what I'm saying. Freaking Nick Saban just back to life.
But Saban doesn't matter. If Georgia wins, then
that's it. But having 2 losses and you beat Georgia, they're not getting in.
Yeah, that's true. But if they have 2 losses after,
Georgia's getting in no matter what, right?
Yes. I would say so.
If Alabama wins, then you got 2 SEC teams in. If
possibly,
likely.
It'll be an interesting conversation if they try to get them to hot Texas.
I think the committee likes Ohio State, the schedule. Everything. Yes. We had 3 big games this year. Michigan had 2.
No one would believe a year ago, heading into Pac-12 championship game, that Ohio State had any chance to make the playoff a year ago. We had a big, long conversation in here about how dumb it was for fans to be like, I don't want to make the playoff. You do. You want to see these guys again.
You don't want to hurt anymore, Berm.
I like hurt. Big fan.
You know what? If you could bet, here's what people. What type of Beam asked me what type of music in the weight room today at Ohio State. I go, can we just put on "Hurt" by Johnny Cash on repeat?
No, let's play the 9 Inch Nails version.
No, because I want it more slow and somber.
Just really let the knife go in.
The needle tears a hole. The old familiar sting. I focus on the pain, Berm. The only thing that's real.
I think that's really the most ironic part about this whole thing. Is I did not think that Ohio State's resume a year ago was good enough to merit the break that they got to get back in.
They
And this
sure
team
did.
is
You know what they want? The committee wants good games. You can't throw a team in there and get smoked, and that's why Ohio State has gotten the benefit of the doubt. And honestly, despite the fact they lost to Georgia last year, like
they got exactly what they wanted.
They got exactly what they wanted. 25 million people watching it in a competitive game, not throwing in some slaps out of the Big 12 or Pac-12 that would have got rolled over by 25 points, and everyone's waiting for the next game to come up.
Well, when we're back in here next Monday in the Horseshoe Lounge, we will know where Ohio State is headed for the postseason.
I can't handle any more.
It's going to be a long week, but hang in there. Hopefully, this helped to talk about it a little bit and get some of the stuff out there.
It's like a wake.
That's the way to do it.
A little bit of catharsis for Bobby Carpenter, Justin Zwick, and Jeremy Birmingham. We appreciate Nicole Cox and Roosters for having us in here. Come on Tuesday to get some fried mushrooms for
fried pickles.
Yeah, fried pickles. No, fried mushrooms were last week.
Do you think if I can eat enough of these to kill myself, it'll all explode?
Pickle juice should be
this guy
very
loves
hydrated,
pickles.
right?
I'm not.
This guy loves pickles.
I'm living on pickles right now. That's for sure. Those are Appetizer Thursday. You can come in and get some gift cards, spend $50 and get 10 for yourself. And then we'll be back here next week. Enjoy championship weekend if you can, and pull for Ohio State to get a little bit of help so that we can cover a playoff at the end of the month. That's Jay-Z, Bob Berm. I'm Austin. We'll see you next time.